stop Trump and ignore the Constitution and a lot of other things. I was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in January 2021. I don't know about you, but I'm offended that somebody in 2023 would subpoena my phone records to find out where I was at when I called somebody and who I called and where they were at. It's none of their damn business. I have a constitutional duty, like the rest of us here, as chairman of the committee regarding the 2020 election. I don't think the 2020 election bothered anybody until Trump decided to run in 2024, legally. So what I want to do is pursue what happened system-wide. Was there contact between Jack Smith and Fani Willis? I got caught up in that crap. I'd spent over $1 million. Now, she's been kicked off the case. Was there a coordination between Jack Smith, Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James? Did they talk? Did they share information? Is it just an accident that all this happened within days of Trump announcing, and within 8 or 9 months, the Republican candidate, one of the candidates for president, had 91 felony charges in the deepest blue districts in the friggin' country? You think that happened by accident? I don't think so. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. And I want to know, was there any coordination between Fani Willis and New York by Jack Smith? We're going to get every piece of paper we can get, and I want Jack Smith to come forward, but I want the information first. He's not coming and testify when we're in the dark to the Justice Department. Please expedite the requests made by Senator Grassley and Johnson to give us any information that may exist between Jack Smith and Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James. I want to know, did they talk? If they talked, what did they talk about, and when did they talk? As to me, I want to know why Verizon did the opposite of AT&T. I want to know what they asked for and how deep and how wide it went. Now, I want to know if there's an order signed by a federal judge basically slandering me, saying you can't tell Lindsey Graham because he'll do bad things. Now, if that happened, I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to give it a pass, nor is Ted or the rest of us. So we're going to get to the bottom of it for the benefit of the future. If this can happen to Trump, it can happen to anybody that the system doesn't like. And the system one day can come after you, is what's being said here. So people literally need to pay a price for this. Some people may need to go to jail. Some people may need to be fired. But if they violated my constitutional rights, if they trampled on the separation of powers involving me, I'm going to sue the hell out of these people.
I think what happens sometimes in this town is that we have multiple news cycles in one day, and big events can sort of get lost in all the things that are happening in the news of the day. But I think that in this instance, I can't think of a bigger political scandal in the last 100 years. So if you want to compare it to Watergate, this is 100 times worse than Watergate, and here's why. To sort of amplify the point that Senator Graham was making, 3 days after President Trump announced he was running for president, this system was weaponized against him. Jack Smith, who is notorious in prosecutor world as being a Stalin-like, show me the man, I'll show you the crime prosecutor. That's the guy you appoint when you want to get your political opponent. He's a dirtbag. A dirtbag. And I hope he comes before this committee. He's got a lot to answer to. He not only went after President Trump, he went after sitting senators. At the time, I was the chairman of the Republican Attorneys General Association. Ashley Moody was also on the executive board. He came after us. And also hundreds of other people who happened to be Republicans in the United States of America. What else happened? The #2 prosecutor in Atlanta, a state prosecution of President Trump, which was ridiculous to begin with, somehow meets with the White House. The #3 person at the Department of Justice leaves the #3 job at the Department of Justice to go work for Alvin Bragg, a state prosecutor. Why is that? This was an effort to go after political opponents in America like we have never seen before. It can never happen again. And let me pull a couple people outside of Jack Smith. Judge Boasberg. Judge Boasberg gave a speech about how he was going to thwart the Trump agenda before he got those cases. He was not the assignment judge. The D.C. courts have a daily assignment judge. He wasn't the assignment judge. He's on vacation. Somehow gets these cases at 1 in the morning. Was he tipped off? Did somebody tell him these cases against President Trump and his agenda now were coming? I don't know. We should find that out. But Judge Boasberg, what he did to Senator Cruz and maybe other senators, absolutely, and I don't say this lightly, absolutely is worthy of impeachment proceedings. There has to be accountability. The American people have heard a lot about this, and you're going to hear more. We should have Watergate-style hearings on this for months. If we're ever going to root this out, we have to be serious about it, and consequences have to follow. Resignations, firings, criminal prosecutions. You simply can't, in this country, use the justice system to throw people in jail because they have a red jersey on or a blue jersey on. It's completely unacceptable, but they never forgave President Trump for coming down the escalator in the first place. That's what this whole thing is about. And they can't actually believe they're in the position now that the American people sent him back. And if he didn't win, not just did he run, if he wouldn't have won, we would never know any of this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just the mere fact that he won, delivered a historic political comeback nobody alive today has ever seen. Is this an issue? So we have to actually do something about it, or it will happen again. I want to thank Chairman Grassley for his leadership, only because of the respect that he has with whistleblowers and his dogged determination and that of Senator Johnson are we even here today. And there's a lot more to come. This is just what we know right now. There's a lot more that's going to come.
Well, we appreciate you hanging with us and paying attention as we went through all of this today. If you don't know me, I'm Ashley Moody. I am the most junior member of the Judiciary Committee. But I showed up in January. I've been here 9 months, and I cannot tell you how shocked I have been at what transpired under the last administration. I now show up with a background as not only a lawyer, a federal prosecutor, a judge for over a decade, and the Attorney General of Florida to make sure that this country gets back on course. Because let me tell you about countries like Venezuela, whose own government went after their enemies, and that didn't just include those who were rightfully and duly elected by the people. They went after news organizations and journalists. They went after allies and people who supported freedom and democracy. And most of the people from that country who fled reside now in the state of Florida. Meeting with former Supreme Court justices from Venezuela, I heard time and time again, this story that we're telling you today. You heard Senator Cruz tell you that a judge said that he may destroy evidence. This is one of the preeminent lawyers in our country who argued in front of the Supreme Court, who has dedicated his life to service, who fights for the future of this country. And you had an administration go after him. If you are issuing subpoenas, you're saying they're related to a criminal investigation. And you had a judge say that he could destroy evidence. Think about that. They were trying to wipe out the leaders of a cause for a next generation. From elected leaders to news media, multiple outlets, journalists, even donors. If you're watching this right now, oh yes, there were even subpoenas issued on donors. Your information. If you believed in a cause and thought so highly of it, those things that we stood for, and you put your money where your mouth was, your information was sought. So when you hear them say, imagine that they're doing this to us, they could do this to you, they did do it to you. And we only know this because the president was elected again. And I can tell you right now, you've heard them say we need to do our jobs, impeachment needs to be on the table. Impeachment wasn't just a theory or an idea or some hypothetical one day. If there was ever an instance to root out judges that were not following the law or not being independent or were not living up to their oath, this is it. Impeachment cannot be a scarecrow. We must use that tool to make sure the public can trust in our judiciary again, can trust in our justice system again. Because if you ask the Supreme Court justices that fled to the United States from Venezuela, they would tell you when their justice system went, when the people no longer trusted that it was independent, they lost their nation. And I, for one, as the rookie of judiciary and the rookie of the United States Senate, are here to fight for this country. It will not fall under our watch. And you have our word.
Here, here.
Direct your questions to whichever senator you want to ask them to. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. To anyone, I'm Allison Seibert with Lindell TV, and Mike Lindell himself is actually mentioned in the judiciary document release involving Arctic frost. When can Lindell and really all other Americans know what to extent and by what means they were targeted and or surveilled in all of this? And will there be a full list released of every American that was involved?
Well, I think my colleagues could speak to this as well, but I think that we're going to just prove what the government has tried to do. We get more documents to do it, and we don't know everybody that's probably been involved yet, but we've got evidence that too many people, and this process should have never gone ahead. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I know we've had a lot of special counsels in recent years, and I know that you guys in the judiciary are planning on investigating this. Is this something that you think the Trump administration should appoint a special counsel to investigate?
I'd love to handle that.
Yeah.
So having been involved in investigations now for about 10 years, the first thing I notice when there's a special counsel or a criminal investigation, we never get access to the information. And if crimes aren't charged, that all gets sealed, and the American public never knows what happened. So I've called on Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, do a rigorous internal investigation for the purpose of turning those documents over to Congress so that we can examine people, we can take testimony, we can hold hearings, so the American people know what happened. We bind this up in a legal process right away, we'll never know. So I am, at some point in time, criminal referrals, at some point in time, criminal investigations, prosecutions, or special counsels, but that should not be the first thing we should do.
I would see this process if a special counsel was appointed, whoever made that decision to appoint it, they'd want to shut down our investigation. Yes, over there.
Senator Grassley, do you agree with your colleagues that Judge Boasberg should be impeached? And if so, what do you think that process would look like?
I'm sorry, I've got hearing problems, so speak louder.
Do you agree with your colleagues that Judge Boasberg should be impeached, as they just mentioned? And if so, how would that process play out?
With the hearings, you mean? Well, first of all, we want to make sure that we have all the documents, all the information that we can possibly get, so we know when these people that come before us, they know what to say or not to say, and we got to make sure that we got the documents so when they lie to us, we can challenge them.
Can I say something about that? Impeachment starts in the House. And I think what Ted's saying is based on this order, he hopes the House will look at whether or not this judge abused his authority. I am 1,000% supportive of that idea. I cannot believe that a federal judge would sign an order withholding informing a senator for a year regarding a request coming from Jack Smith because they think Ted Cruz would tamper with witnesses, withhold, or destroy evidence. That's unbelievable. What made you think that? What evidence did you have? That really did shut down the systems as it's supposed to. You're supposed to tell us when we have our phone records asked for. That's actually a law somewhere. Well, the judge overrode that. Why? How could he possibly conclude that? What evidence did he have? If there's no evidence, then I think he chilled the ability of Senator Cruz to be able to react in real time and violated the way this whole system's set up. They're supposed to call us. We had a judge's order saying, don't tell Ted for a whole year because Ted may destroy evidence and tamper with witnesses. That is BS. I hope somebody will look at that.
And just one tweak. The judge didn't say I may destroy evidence. The judge signed an order that says the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. And that is utterly without basis in fact. There was no evidence to support that. If the prosecutor made that representation, the prosecutor perjured himself.
Amen.
And I'd bet $20 this judge cranked out an order like that for every single senator down up here. We just happen to have mine, but it's boilerplate. If you're a Republican, you're on the enemies list, I find that you will destroy evidence. And so we're going to let the executive surveil you without Congress ever knowing about it.
Let me apologize to you for not hearing your question right.
Sir.
Can we talk about a little bit about what these subpoenas were looking at, what they were trying to pull back? Are we talking about fundraising around January 6th? We just didn't really get a clear understanding of what those subpoenas were, what they were trying to look at in these Republican organizations.
Well, an awful lot of it was about the elector case, which you have to understand. I mean, in Wisconsin, we had an alternate slate of electors. We had probably the most experienced and knowledgeable election attorney judge, Judge Trupus, handled the president's case. He thought it was in the best interest of his client that he would appoint an alternate slate of electors. So that if he prevailed, he wouldn't end up like Al Gore before the Supreme Court. Well, even if you win, you don't have an alternate slate of electors. They tried to criminalize that. Even though our Attorney General's office said that there's nothing improper about that alternate slate of electors, the news calls those fake electors. The Attorney General now of Wisconsin is trying to put Judge Trupus away for life. He's trying to criminalizing. He's indicting him on felonies. So a lot of it was about the whole alternate elector part. But you know, by and large, it was just a weaponization. It was. I mean, the timeline. I meant to do that. I want to keep my remarks short, but let's just go through the timeline. It's important. In April of 2022. Garland approves that elector case. Okay, that's April 22. August of 22, they raid Mar-a-Lago. September 19th was the first subpoenas issued in this whole investigation. As other senators pointed out, November 15th, Trump announced his candidacy. 3 days later, Jack Smith was appointed. June 2023, Jack Smith indicts Trump. August, he indicts him again. In August 6th, there's a briefing on Jack Smith's Arctic Frost case revealing log call collection from 9 members of Congress. That happened, after all this occurred. What are they doing collecting records after that point? And the final point of this, in November of 2023, Lisa Monaco changes the procedures on collecting telephone information or information on members of Congress. Like somebody at some point in time realized we better cover our backside. So again, this was an enemies list. This was a political witch hunt, and it's all politicized. It's all about trying to keep President Trump on office.
Let me add a little bit in answer to your question. So President Trump announced his candidacy in November of 2022. This subpoena was signed on May 25th of 2023. So it was about 6 months after he announces his candidacy. I assume the others were contemporaneous, although we don't have that information. You asked what did it cover. Here's what the attachment to the subpoena says. Provide the following records from January 4th, 2021 through January 7th, 2021. Subscriber information, names, including subscriber names, user names, and screen names, addresses, including mailing addresses, residential addresses, business addresses, and email addresses, all call detail records, including but not limited to detail records for inbound and outbound calls, text messages, direct connect, and voicemail messages. So every text that a sitting senator received, every text that a sitting senator sent, every voicemail that you had, all of the data the phone company had. Length of service, including start date, types of service, and it goes through means of source of payment for such service. It goes through record of sessions times and durations, and temporarily assigned network addresses such as internet protocol addresses associated with those sessions. So they're looking for, among other things, geolocation of where you were. This is flat out surveillance. And by the way, the Supreme Court has concluded that law enforcement can't get geolocation from a cell phone without particularized evidence of a crime. They didn't have that. This was a fishing expedition to say, give me everything you got on 20% of the Republicans in the Senate.
Like 30 months after the 2020 election.
Just real quick, Jack Smith recently said he wanted to testify in a public setting. I know that he sort of did a list of preconditions. First, do you have an update on whether or not he'll testify? And any of those preconditions kind of stand out to you? Are you having a problem with any of them?
You're saying Jack Smith wants to testify?
In a public setting?
Yeah, again, we need the documents first so we can determine whether he's telling us the truth or not. Otherwise, he comes in with all the advantage. So no, we need those documents. That's why we need Cash Patel. We need them to gain control of their agency, which is difficult to do, to turn these records over so we're prepared to either have them give a transcribed interview or do a hearing. And I will say, too, Senator Cruz talked about his subpoena. We released the subpoenas. They are broad. These are not narrow, targeted subpoenas. They're looking for everything but the kitchen sink. I mean, trust me, you would not want to get a subpoena like that.
And let me also put, just from the AG perspective, if it wasn't for when I was AG and the Republican AGs pushed back on the Biden agenda, right? We took the vaccine mandate to the Supreme Court, we won. On the student loan, and won. We took the student loan debt forgiveness case to the Supreme Court, and we won. We fought against all the overreach from COVID. We took on all those issues and won. So if that's a predicate for criminal prosecution, because you're the constitutionally elected lawyer for the people of your state, pushing back against illegal activity from a president, I can't think of a more chilling activity that this previous administration headed by Biden and then, of course, his minions who were doing his dirty work were. That's, again, why, I think it's just easy to kind of like, oh, there's another, whatever, it's another story, and there's another. Like, if you put this in its full context and laid it out in a book, you would not think it happened in the United States of America.
Who wants the very last question?
You.
Thank you. Kind of piggybacking off of this question about Jack Smith's public testimony, if that's happening, you guys are saying that you need Cash Patel to get you those documents. Do you have any estimate on a timeline of what that would look like? Are you sending people to help? What is that? You're saying you need staff?
So what I can just say in terms of my own staff's working with Cash Patel, and again, he's doing everything he can, but we're getting reports that they are having very difficult time getting documents. I mean, ran the same problem with Bobby Kennedy, or HHS. He's for radical transparency. It took months for him to break the logjam inside HHS to give us the documents. So again, this is a challenge. That's why he's, again, the Judiciary Committee's got to do everything they can to help Cash Patel get control of his agencies, get us those documents.
From my perspective here, I would simply say this, that I think that we're getting maximum cooperation from the FBI somewheres in the bowels of the Department of Justice. One of two things. Either it takes a long time to go through this stuff, or they're looking for an excuse not to give it. But quite frankly, we've got to have the Attorney General jack the people up that are under her that are keeping us from getting these documents. And I made that statement not only to you just now, but in one of our hearings within the last 2 weeks, made very clear that this is something that we're trying to get out to the public to make sure all the wrong that's been done to President Trump over the last 10 years, and for the historical reason to make sure it doesn't happen again. We want this out, and I would think that it would be in Trump's own interest to tell the Justice Department that this stuff ought to be made public so that we never have it happen again, not just to him, but to anybody else.
Thank you much.
Outside of that, it's okay. Oh, no, when you call Atlanta's satellite, they're the ones that go with your color, they'll do the color for you, and also your audio level. So you gotta make sure it's on your town. And have them talking real, not
Not the 1, 2, 3, 4,
4, 5, right.
the regular speaking voice that you're gonna speak on air.
But outside of that, it was pretty cool.
Were you guys better inside or outside?
Yeah, the phone